crash, bang, war. Hey, I'm Ken Ween. My partner in crime, Monica Brinkman, we're two crazy old folks. And today we thought we would talk about war and what it's good for. So the first thing it doesn't seem right now to be good for is the stock market or inflation or things like that, because we're booming and banging away in Iran, and that doesn't seem to be helping much economically. But traditionally, of course, that's been one of the reasons people go to war is economics.
But Ken, I noticed that if you follow the stock markets, they're going really low so people can buy them low. And then they're going really high so they can make money off of them.
Are you thinking somebody might be manipulating them, Monica?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean,
Possible.
I hate to say that. I never want to say these things about, what's going on, but I can't close my eyes to it.
Well, you know, I don't know how much of the stock market is manipulable these days and how much of it is just beyond anybody's control because you have all these other countries and things.
There's so much
the thing I
involved.
look at, for economics, really, my favorite measure is the exchange rate with the Swiss franc. Okay. Because the Swiss franc is one of the most stable things in a system that is horrendously unstable. So if you really want to know what's going on, you use some kind of metric like that, a metric you can reasonably
You can
know.
compare it with. Yeah.
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 And if you're following that, I have to tell you that this war and everything that's gone on for the last couple of years in the United States has been really not good for the American economy. But what's another thing war is good for besides the economy? Morale. Oh, yeah. Wow. Now,
My problem is, see, if somebody was attacking us and are threatening us with an attack like that, and we fought back, then that's fine with me.
Yeah,
But
historically, that's the best way to build morale.
yeah,
Like
I don't want to go
after
out and start wars all over the place.
After 9/11, people were all rushing to join the military and all. I mean, of course, after Pearl Harbor, things like that. When we're doing the attacking, it's kind of hard to really build morale, especially when we're attacking something that's on the other side of the world practically. I mean, it does seem just a little bit unconnected to anything good for us as a people.
They're taking away things from the people. This is what saddens me
I'm
very
sorry,
much.
what saddens you?
They're taking away from the people. We're paying taxes and to support
Oh,
this.
you mean that we're supporting a war, we're paying for a war, we're putting our young people up for a war that that you don't agree with and that I don't agree with. That's
But
a
what I'm
whole,
saying
yeah,
is to support this war, they're using our taxes
yeah, of course.
and they're taking away from programs.
Oh, yes and no, in the sense that they had taken away from programs before, and the money that's going to pay for the war at this point, it's redefining the nature of government. Okay, I think that what we're talking about is redefine. It's in economics classes when you're a freshman in college, they talk about guns versus butter. And, are we going to invest in guns or butter? And of course, the answer that you're supposed to come out with at the end is either that you can have both or that you have to find the right balance between the two. But most of the time, traditionally in more recent years, the answer has been we can have both. This is redefining the role of government to say the role of government is to have guns and not to worry about butter. And this is a very interesting argument, and it takes us back to religion and what is the function of government. Okay, and if you look back at the most conservative, particularly Christian view, the government's goal is to maintain order, to protect the borders, to keep foreigners out, and those kind of things. It is not particularly to encourage the economy or encourage the well-being of people. So going to war and spending money on war is just a continuation of redefining government and the purpose of government. So, and that is one of the things war is good
I
for.
understand. You could go on and on about that, but the people elect people to represent them in their needs and their wants. And this has been going on for a very long time.
Well, yes and no. Again,
And I mean, we can go back in history, but
the people who voted for these people who are doing this would say that they're representing their interests. I mean, you and we may be appalled.
well, then
We may
why
be
are these
appalled
same
that somebody
people complaining so much about the war, and why are they complaining about the prices of everything?
these same people. Okay, if you're saying
But
to
you're
me
speaking
that
them. Yeah.
if you're saying that the people who voted for the current administration and supported it are now having second thoughts, I sure
Well,
hope so.
it's hurting them.
I sure hope so.
Yeah, I do too.
There's
Not
still
out of
about
being
40%.
right.
Sadly, there's still about 40% approval rating. I mean, I can't, it's blowing my mind. But, there were a lot of people who, for whatever reason, bought into that model. And now he is using war to bring about the model. And they are just realizing that he's giving it to them in the hindquarters. Okay, what is this war good for to me? It is hopefully to show some people that they really made a terrible mistake. I am hoping that this war will help people to understand that their notion of government, the role of government, their notion of religion is screwed up. Okay. I mean, one of the things that actually our troops are being told in this war is that it is a Christian war. Now, forget the fact that I'm of Jewish background, so that offends me just to begin with. I may not be a Muslim, and I'm certainly not a Shia Muslim, which is the dominant religion in Iran.
Yeah.
But they're religious people. They believe in the same Abrahamistic, monotheistic religion that you and I. As a matter of fact, you could even make a case that the origins of our religious background, the very notions of a creator God, of good and evil, actually started in what was then Persia, which is now Iran. The Zarathustra, or as we call him, Zoroaster, was the first prophet or religious figure. And
I mean, there are, each religion has their own symbol, that they call God, or their own name that they call God.
Well, yeah,
and some have many gods, I mean, and some don't believe at all. But we're talking about war today.
Yeah, we are talking
and what's going on.
We are talking about that redefinition process where the Secretary of Defense has actually said to the military, this war is about religion. That was my point. If you're talking about redefining government and its role, okay, what is the benefit of war? For those people who believe in that kind of approach to the world, this is good. To you and me, it's an anathema. To
I
you and me, it's horrid.
I mean, I think most people understand that by now because these people wouldn't be so supportive if they didn't believe everything that's being told to them, you know,
Well,
and
well, again, we're talking the people, and there are the people on each side. You and I are people too, Monica. You and I think this war is an anathema. You and I think the idea of Christian war or Jewish war or Muslim war
doesn't matter what
is,
type of
is,
war.
is, is an insult to the very notion of a creator.
It's not just the wars, Ken. It's what they're doing with our allies and everything else that
Oh, okay. Well, now we are talking
and we're
about,
invading all these countries. I mean, my goodness.
okay, what countries, that's a very interesting thing. Okay. If you look at alliances and how they function, one of the fascinating things to me is that alliances do not always have to share, allies do not always have to share the same worldview. For example, during the Second World War, the fascist worldview of Germany and Italy were not shared with their ally, Japan. That was an alliance of convenience. Now, the problem is that what happens though when your shared values now become less held in common? Okay, like for example, during the Second World War, the United States and the Soviet Union were on the same side. We
Yes,
were
we were.
both fighting the same enemies.
Yeah.
And then at a certain point, we became, wait a minute, we don't agree with you. So, what Trump has been doing, and I think he's doing it badly, and I think it is a bad thing to do, is he is deliberately trying to separate us, and he is using this war to separate us from our allies, allies with whom he no longer holds a common vision. That common vision, which was liberal democratic values, democracy with a responsibility to the citizenry, things like health care, education, etc. At the end of the Second World War, the values being espoused all over Europe were very close to the values that were being espoused here. People say one of the fascinating things that went on is a lot of things that got rejected in this country because they came from the United Nations. We couldn't get the Senate to agree to things that the United Nations had voted on, were actually things that the United Nations had taken from us. So, for example, we created all these laws about the handicap. Then the United Nations made them part of international law. And then when they came back to us as part of international law, we said no. And that sent a tendency on the part of the United States to always want to feel like we're in charge. Nobody else can tell us what to do. He is playing on that. So and now with the war, he is basically trying to force our allies and countries that have the same values that you and I have. They may not be the same as some of our countrymen, but you and I certainly have. Countries like England and Denmark to somehow take part in this religious war.
I know.
And he even has gone so far as to say, I don't even care if you join us, just go steal. Basically, he said, just go in there and steal and take the stuff that you want. And we're okay with that. You don't even have to be shooting at the same people we're shooting, because we just want you to admit that our values, these, and I'm going to put in air quotes, Christian values, are the values that matter, that this view of the world in which the good take from the bad the rich take from the poor, that this kind of value
Yeah, I
system.
don't believe they're Christian values, though, Ken. I mean, people can put a label on anything. It's your actions that speak. I can call, a dog a cat, and it's a dog.
I'm confused, Monica. You don't believe that those are Christian values, or you don't believe that there are such a thing as
I
Christian?
don't believe that that running a government as a Christian nationalist government is acceptable.
Oh, okay, that's
Now,
another.
I
Now
don't believe
we're
it's
talking church and
Christian,
state.
Ken. You have to
Now we're
understand.
talking church and state, and I couldn't agree more with you. I think this whole
I
thing
can
is
put a
wrong.
label on anything, and say it's something. That's all they've done.
No, I think that they honestly, I think, you and I, for many years, we have been talking about Reconstructionist Christianity.
Yeah, I know
I've
that
been
exists.
I've been going on about how evil they are. And now we're looking at it. And I don't think that they are just being,
Exactly what I said. That's not Christianity. That's Zionism.
well,
They can label
it's
it
certainly not my thought.
Christianity.
If when I read about Jesus, okay, the Jesus I read about would probably be pounding these idiots over the head.
I know it.
I mean,
The Bible, you would be pounding them because this is not the first time that people have tried or wanted to do this. I mean,
well, this is an
if you
on
look up
this has
how
been
many
an
times it
ongoing
said
it's
the
been an
coming,
ongoing battle since day one. It's been an ongoing battle
yeah.
between what what are the values that people espouse, and yeah,
Well, Ken, what bothers me the most about this, and I really want to say this, except there are people that are in this that aren't part of the group that you're talking about as of Christianity. There's
I,
some
I'm
that
sorry, I don't understand you again, but I have to, my
that's
brain is
okay.
limited. There are people who support the present government's actions, even though they are not Reconstructionist Christians. Is that what you
Correct.
said?
Yeah,
Oh,
they're
yeah,
not
absolutely.
Reconstructionist Christians.
Absolutely. There are other groups, yes, who have their
And
own separate agendas.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Okay. Mhm.
And it's just, I don't
Well,
know what else can be said to people. It's just a label somebody put on this, and it does not represent the majority of the Christians.
well,
That's what,
again, Reconstructionist Christian is not the same word as Christian.
right.
Okay. But there are many people whose values are not Reconstructionist Christian who also, for some reason, support this administration.
Yes.
Let's talk about some of those people. What's another good thing that come out of this war? Well, I don't know that it is a good thing, but there are a lot of people in this country who are feeling that their lives and their children's lives are not getting better. The great myth of America has always been we're going to be better. Tomorrow's coming and tomorrow's going to be better.
Yeah.
And we have reached a point where, for a lot of people, that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. Part of the reason for that, to be quite fair and honest, was we changed trade policies. And we created employment policies. And all of a sudden, we have a lot of people who worked with their hands, who did their best, who now can barely get by. And they're angry, frustrated, and they want somebody to blame. Now, a lot of them, quite appropriately, blame not just Washington, but in the government, but almost more specifically, I think a lot of them blame the Democratic Party because of the North American Trade Agreement and what that did to trade unions and to American manufacturing. And many more of them blame international investors who have moved capital to places like Indochina, boy, my old-fashioned Vietnam, places like that, in order to get more bang for their buck, and taking the jobs away. But a lot of them, the less sophisticated, less educated ones, want somebody closer at home to blame. And who better to blame than them, them, them? Now,
Everybody but who they are.
who's the them? Okay.
Those that don't.
Every society has had a them. If you remember your New Testament, okay? If you remember your New Testament, there is a parable of the Good Samaritan. Now, Samaria was actually a part of what was then Israel. It wasn't like, oh my God, we're talking about somebody from across the world. We're talking about people who lived in the next county. Okay. But they were looked on with such contempt. And Jesus was considered a heretical because he said that a Samaritan could be a good person.
Yes.
Okay. So now we're talking about, okay, them. Who are the them? Now, I happen to live in Tucson, Arizona. So I'm surrounded by people of Mexican descent. Many of them whose families have lived in my neighborhood longer than I have. In fact, for generations before anybody from my part of the world, ancestors could come here. But we are still told here that they're the them. These wonderful people I live next door to are the them. And when I lived in Phoenix, which is only 100 miles from here.
Ken, don't you feel like they've made much more than that to them?
I'm sorry?
They're making much more than immigrants to them.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
they have made anyone who is not a loyalist and supporter a them.
Well, yeah, that's the direction it's going in. But this again, if you remember the Second World War, which I do remember slightly enough, I remember that my downstairs neighbor was of Italian background. And he'd actually fought in the First World War when Italy was our ally. So the shrapnel in his legs came not as an enemy of the United States, but as a friend of the United States.
Yes.
And I remember hearing people doubting his loyalty. We're always making thems. Okay. I happen to come from a background of the ultimate them. I'm Jewish. But if you remember,
Italian. So here we go.
If you remember during the Second World War, we had all of the Japanese Americans, almost all of them in camps. And they went on to have the best fighting unit. The Japanese Americans who served in Europe, their unit had the highest commendations of any unit in the war. Okay. Mm. We had the Black people at them. And, none of it makes sense. It has never made sense, the theming of others. But the theming is part of the purpose of war. What is good comes out of war? We define us and them. The problem is right now is that we have a government that is trying to define part of the us as the them. Not just a small group like the Japanese Americans, or even a 10% or 12% group like the Black Americans, but anybody who's disloyal. Well, now we're right back at, oh gosh, I start thinking about Germany. I start thinking about Russia. I start thinking about Spain, Franco Spain.
Italy.
I start thinking about the re-education camps in China after World War II. There is something so evil about the theming
Well, they're programming people when you censor media, and you censor, and they're doing it everywhere, not just TV,
Yep. That's
and
another
they
purpose.
show
Another
certain kind of shows
good point. That's another
only.
good purpose of war. We can censor the media. We can redefine truth. We can call things secret. And we can get away with it because we must not let the enemy know the secrets. So, yeah, black is white until the war's over. And of course, if you are a believer in that approach, you just keep the war going forever. So black never goes back to black. It's always going to be black is white.
Yeah, I feel like I'm living this all over again, only on steroids. It's
I'm living in a bad dystopian novel myself. I'm a writer and I don't want to live in this novel.
well, maybe it'll give you some more ideas to write then.
you know,
That'll be one good thing about the war.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I already did memoirs from the asylum, which was, it mostly takes place in a nut house.
Yeah,
So
it's really,
now I got a new world time nut house that I can take place in.
yeah, yeah. That might take a while to write, though.
But one of the things that I have come to believe that is a good of war. Okay, now I've talked about all these things that are good come out of war that I'm being very sarcastic and facetious about. But what is good that does come out of war is that people sometimes, not all people, but many people realize. They say to themselves, holy shit, this has been dumb. Oh my God, what fools we have been.
Yeah.
There has to be a better way. In the midst, in the midst of the destructiveness, in the midst of the horror, in the midst of the evil, every now and then people come forward and they look for life's meaning. They look for value. They rise above. Okay. I'm thinking of like an example, Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, that he wrote basically while he was a prisoner in the concentration camps. We can rise above. And when we do, then we get ready for the next part of the journey. And, one of the things that you have to recognize that I'm going to say something really dumb here, but it's true. I like M&Ms. Okay. We wouldn't have M&Ms if it hadn't been for the Second World War. Now, I'm picking just one of the very small, the smallest maybe, but also one of the most gratifying of all of the things that came out of the Second World War. They wanted a treat that they could give to the soldiers that they wouldn't be melting, especially if you were in the Pacific, the South Pacific. Chocolate. People love chocolate. But they came up with a way.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not so big on Tang or on powdered milk, but I do like some of the
You
other
like
things.
M&Ms? Yeah, I've
Yeah,
heard that before, that's why it was
yeah,
invented.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
it's
And
still around today, right?
yeah, so my point is that we can grow from war. Um,
I hope we
my,
grow together again as people. I mean, we're not going to agree on everything. Life would be boring if we did, but come on.
I'm just hoping that out of this, we get a new age of theological thinking, of discussion that brings us closer to a God that helps us to grow rather than one who condemns us
Yeah.
to a pit someplace.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that novelists and poets and people like you and I will have something to say that will perhaps enlighten. Um, just today, I'm putting the finishing touches on a new play that my friend Uma Abdul and I are
Yeah.
writing. And it's really about how religion, in that case, in the case we're talking about, it's ISIS, actually,
Right.
because there really is no difference between what they do and
Yeah. We're gonna have to talk about that another time, though. I think it's,
contaminates a society.
yeah.
And, the question that the audience is left with in this play, because Umar and I don't have the answer, is what do we do? How do we as humans rise above? Monica,
Ken, Ken, it's not easy, but you have
no,
to be true to come from love and care. And people don't like it and they don't believe you. They think you always have motives, but we have to.
oh, yes, that is so true. It is so sad. I see it so often, just in every day. If you try and help people, if you try and do something that makes the world a little brighter, everybody has got a reason why you can't possibly be doing it right, or you can't possibly be doing it for the right reason, or you
You
can't
know,
possibly mean it to end well.
and
And
I'm at the point, Kim, where that's who they are, and that's what they're going through in life, you know?
well, I think I keep going back to the notion of sin. Okay, and my working definition of sin, which I stole from a boy. He was like in fifth, sixth grade, and his name was Greg. And Greg said to me, he came from a very, I don't know, his family had very intense religious values that they wouldn't talk about to me, but I knew they were there. And he said to me, his notion of sin was leaving a chocolate chip cookie uneaten. And I think there's a lot to that. I think that the worst sins are the sins of omission, that we fail to celebrate life in its goodness. And, you know, there was a German,
Need to laugh again, Ken.
there was a German psychoanalytically trained guy named Erich Fromm. And he talked about people who oriented toward life and those who are oriented toward death. Necrophilic was the word he used. And he was writing just after the Second World War, and he was writing about the Nazis and the fascists, and to some degree the Japanese. And I think that was onto something. I think that in life, we can choose to preoccupy ourselves with life, or we can preoccupy ourselves with death. Um, the funny thing is, that most of the people I know are so concerned about death
I didn't think about it.
that they don't worry about life. And
Right.
I think Greg was right. I think that uneaten chocolate chip cookie is really a terrible sin.
Hey, I look
Especially,
forward to getting those cookies at the market all the time.
it doesn't have to be chocolate chip. I mean, oatmeal raisin
Yeah,
could,
whatever you prefer. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. ginger snaps. I mean, all kinds of cookies.
It's like to take the time to stop and smell the flowers. We miss so much joy in life by focusing on death, you know, and gosh, I wish people would just enjoy more moments in life, Ken.
So, folks, please take a moment, smell the flowers, dance a little,
Yeah,
sing a little, eat that cookie, and take a moment to appreciate life and the world. And
yeah,
stop being so preoccupied with finding fault and finding anger and blaming. And then when you're in a better place, say to yourself, how can I make this world better for tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow?
and either after we're gone from this plane,
And
tomorrow's. That's
oh,
my wish.
wisdom from crazy old people.
But we do love you guys and appreciate all of those who share our show and watch it. Okay, Ken, till next time.
Till
Love
next
to
time.
all. Bye
Bye bye.
bye.